Life has a way of surprising us in the most unanticipated moments, doesn't it? Often, it's not the grand events that shape our stories, but the fleeting encounters that unravel secrets we never knew existed. In the heart of a bustling city, a man named Nathaniel Hayes, a self-made millionaire and tech visionary, seemed to have it all: success, luxury, and influence. Yet beneath his meticulously crafted image, there lingered a void that no amount of wealth could fill. Nathaniel spent his days surrounded by opulence, steering the world's attention to his groundbreaking innovations. But his nights were starkly different. Lonely hours spent in a penthouse that felt more like a gilded cage than a home. What could a man who seemingly had it all possibly lack? For Nathaniel, the answer was simple yet elusive: connection, family, and the kind of love that grounded a person in something real. One ordinary afternoon, as he navigated the crowded streets in his sleek black sports car, something unusual caught his eye. On the corner of a busy sidewalk, a woman hurried along, guiding two young boys and a little girl, their laughter breaking through the city's clamor. But it wasn't just their joy that captured Nathaniel's attention. It was their faces. The resemblance was unmistakable. The children had his eyes, his unmistakable features. It was as though he were looking at reflections of his younger self, multiplied by 3. His heart skipped a beat, and his carefully constructed world tilted. Who were they? Could this be a coincidence? Or was life attempting to pull back the curtain on something he'd left buried long ago? As the light turned green and the traffic urged him forward, Nathaniel's mind raced with questions that would not let him rest. What if this moment wasn't random? What if these children held the key to unraveling the deepest mystery of his life? If stories of transformation, love, and rediscovering life's true treasures resonate with you, then this is a journey you cannot miss. Subscribe to our channel and join us as we delve into Nathaniel's extraordinary tale, a story that challenges everything he thought he knew about himself and the world around him. Stay tuned for a heartwarming exploration of love, family, and the power of second chances. You won't want to miss how this seemingly ordinary encounter becomes the catalyst for a revelation that changes everything. Nathaniel Hayes couldn't shake the image of the children from his mind. Their laughter, their energy, and most hauntingly, their faces. They mirrored his own in a way that defied mere coincidence. For a man accustomed to controlling every aspect of his life, this mystery was a rare and unsettling anomaly. What could explain such a resemblance? As the question churned in his mind, a rare sense of vulnerability took hold. The next day, Nathaniel found himself driving through the same streets, hoping for another glimpse of the woman and her children. His schedule, usually dictated by back-to-back meetings and the relentless demands of his tech empire, took a back seat to this newfound curiosity. And then, as if fate had conspired to answer his unspoken wish, he saw them again. This time, the woman was sitting on a bench at a small park, watching her children chase each other through the grass. Nathaniel parked his car nearby and approached cautiously. He wasn't sure what he would say, but something compelled him to act. As he drew closer, he noticed the woman's tired yet determined expression. Her clothes were simple, her shoes worn, but she radiated a quiet strength that intrigued him. The children, oblivious to his presence, continued to play, their laughter filling the air. "Excuse me," Nathaniel began, his voice steady yet tinged with uncertainty. The woman looked up, her eyes narrowing as she took in the sight of the sharply dressed man standing before her. "Yes?" she replied, her tone wary but polite. "I don't mean to intrude," he said, hesitating, "but I couldn't help noticing. Your children. There's something about them that feels familiar." The woman's expression hardened slightly, her guard rising. "I don't see how that's any of your business," she replied curtly. Nathaniel took a step back, sensing her discomfort. "I understand how this must seem," he said, "but I couldn't ignore it. They look a lot like me." Her eyes widened briefly before narrowing again. "A lot of people might look alike," she said, her tone clipped. "That doesn't mean anything." Nathaniel was about to respond when one of the boys ran up to the woman, clutching a stick he'd found. "Look, Mama!" he exclaimed, his face lighting up with excitement. The boy's piercing blue eyes, so strikingly similar to Nathaniel's, left him momentarily speechless. The woman, whose name he would later learn was Evelyn Carter, looked back at Nathaniel, her expression now a mix of apprehension and exhaustion. "Look," she said, her voice firm but not unkind. "I don't know who you are or what you want, but we're fine on our own. Please, just leave us be." Nathaniel wanted to respect her wishes, but the resemblance between himself and the children was too strong to ignore. "I'm not here to disrupt your life," he said quietly, "but if there's even the slightest chance that I have a connection to them, I need to understand." Evelyn hesitated, her resolve wavering. She glanced at her children, who had resumed playing, their laughter echoing through the park. Finally, she sighed. "This isn't the place to talk," she said. "If you're serious about this, meet me here tomorrow at noon. But I'm warning you, if you're just here to satisfy some fleeting curiosity, don't bother." Nathaniel nodded, his heart pounding as he turned and walked away. He had no idea what he would learn the next day, but one thing was certain. His carefully constructed world was beginning to unravel. The following day, Nathaniel arrived at the park well before noon. Dressed casually for the first time in years, he felt oddly out of place. His usual confidence had been replaced by a nervous anticipation. When Evelyn arrived with her children, she looked at him with a mixture of caution and determination. They sat on a bench, a slight distance from the children, who were busy drawing with chalk on the pavement. Evelyn didn't waste time with pleasantries. "All right," she said, her tone direct. "What do you want to know?" Nathaniel took a deep breath. "I want to know if there's any chance at all that they might be my children," he said. The words felt heavy, as though saying them out loud made the possibility more real. Evelyn studied him for a long moment before speaking. "5 years ago," she began, her voice steady but tinged with emotion, "I made a choice to become a mother. But I didn't have the luxury of doing it the traditional way. I went through a clinic, a sperm donor program." Nathaniel's breath caught in his throat. Memories of a decision he'd made years ago, during a time of financial difficulty in his early career, rushed back to him. He had agreed to donate anonymously, thinking little of it at the time. Could it be? "Are you saying?" he began, his voice faltering. "I'm saying there's a very real possibility," Evelyn said, her gaze unwavering. "But before you jump to conclusions, know this. I didn't choose this path lightly. And I've raised these kids on my own, without help, without expecting anything from anyone." Nathaniel felt a wave of emotions, shock, guilt, and an unexpected surge of protectiveness. He looked at the children, who were now laughing as they showed each other their drawings. "I had no idea," he said quietly. "If I had known." Evelyn interrupted him. "If you had known, what? Would you have swooped in and changed everything?" "Life doesn't work that way, Mr. Hayes. These kids are my entire world, and I won't let anyone come into their lives unless they have the best intentions." Her words stung, but Nathaniel understood her position. "I don't want to disrupt their lives," he said. "But if they are my children, I want to be part of their world. I'm not here to take anything away from you, Evelyn. I need to know them." Evelyn's expression softened slightly, though her guard remained up. "If you're serious about this, it won't be easy," she warned. "They're used to things a certain way, and I won't let anyone hurt them." Nathaniel nodded, his resolve solidifying. "I understand," he said, "and I'm willing to earn their trust, and yours." For the first time, Evelyn allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, Nathaniel's intentions were genuine. "All right," she said finally. "We'll take it one step at a time. But understand this. I will do whatever it takes to protect my children." Nathaniel nodded again, his heart pounding with both fear and determination. This was the beginning of a journey he hadn't anticipated. A journey that would challenge everything he thought he knew about love, family, and responsibility. As the children ran toward them, their laughter filling the air, Nathaniel realized that his life was about to change in ways he could never have imagined. And for the first time in years, he welcomed it. The next few weeks unfolded like a tentative dance. Nathaniel began spending time with Evelyn and the children, each encounter revealing more about their lives and testing his resolve. Evelyn remained cautious, watching his every move with the protective instincts of a mother who had faced her share of struggles. The children, however, warmed to Nathaniel quickly, their natural curiosity breaking the initial barriers. Nathaniel found himself navigating uncharted territory, shoelaces, storybooks, and the chaos of 4 energetic young lives. Sophia, the eldest, was observant and thoughtful, often watching him with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Lucas, the middle child, had an infectious energy that Nathaniel couldn't help but admire. The youngest, Emma and Mia, twins with matching grins, seemed to delight in testing his patience, often dragging him into their elaborate games. One Saturday afternoon, Nathaniel joined the family at a small local park. The children laughed and played while he sat with Evelyn on a weathered bench. It was the first time they had a moment to talk without the children nearby. "You're good with them," Evelyn said, her tone neutral but not unkind. "Better than I expected." Nathaniel looked at her, surprised by the faint compliment. "They're incredible kids," he replied honestly. "You've done an amazing job raising them." Evelyn's expression softened, but only slightly. "It hasn't been easy," she admitted. "There were times I didn't think I'd make it, but they're my everything. I'd do it all over again for them." Nathaniel hesitated before asking, "What about you? Do you ever let yourself think about what you need?" Evelyn gave a small, bitter laugh. "Mothers like me don't have the luxury of thinking about that. My life is about making sure they have what they need. That's enough for me." Nathaniel nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "I want to help," he said quietly. "Not just financially, although I can do that, but in any way you'll let me. I want to be here for them and for you." Evelyn looked at him, her expression unreadable. "We'll see," she said after a moment. "Actions speak louder than words, Nathaniel." As they left the park that evening, Nathaniel realized that gaining Evelyn's trust and truly earning a place in her family's life would take more than just promises. It would take time, patience, and a level of commitment he had never given to anyone before. As Nathaniel grew closer to Evelyn and the children, he found himself reflecting on his own past. His rise to success had been driven by a relentless need to prove himself, a need born from a childhood of instability and loss. Raised by a single mother who had worked tirelessly to provide for him, Nathaniel had learned early on that life offered no guarantees. Her sacrifices had shaped his ambition, but they had also left him wary of personal attachments. One evening, after spending the day helping Lucas build a model rocket, Nathaniel stayed behind as the children went to bed. He and Evelyn sat at the kitchen table, the room dimly lit by a single lamp. The modest apartment, though far removed from the luxury Nathaniel was accustomed to, radiated warmth and love. "You're quiet tonight," Evelyn observed, breaking the silence. Nathaniel hesitated, unsure if he wanted to share the thoughts swirling in his mind. But something about Evelyn's steady presence made him feel safe enough to open up. "I've been thinking about my mother," he said finally. "She was a single parent too. Worked 3 jobs just to keep a roof over our heads." Evelyn leaned back, her expression softening. "She must have been a strong woman," she said. "She was," Nathaniel replied, a faint smile crossing his face. "But I think it took a toll on her. She never let me see it, but I could tell. It's part of why I pushed so hard to succeed. I wanted to make sure I'd never struggle the way she did." Evelyn studied him for a moment. "And did it work?" she asked gently. "Did success make it better?" Nathaniel's smile faded. "Not in the way I thought it would," he admitted. "I built a life full of things I thought mattered, but I ended up feeling more alone than ever." Evelyn nodded, her gaze thoughtful. "Loneliness can make you question everything," she said. "But the right connections can change that." Nathaniel looked at her, the weight of her words settling over him. "That's what I'm starting to realize," he said quietly. As the conversation shifted to lighter topics, Nathaniel felt an unfamiliar sense of peace. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about his next business deal or the pressure to maintain his image. Instead, he found himself focused on the simple, human connections he was building, connections that were slowly but surely changing the trajectory of his life. But as he left the apartment that night, another thought lingered in his mind. His growing feelings for Evelyn. Could he be the kind of man she needed? And if so, would she ever let him in fully? Little did Nathaniel know, The answer to those questions would soon come in the form of a challenge neither of them could have anticipated. A challenge that would test not only their resilience, but also the strength of their growing bond. Just as Nathaniel was beginning to feel a sense of belonging with Evelyn and the children, the fragile stability of their growing connection was threatened by an unwelcome visitor from Evelyn's past. It was a gray Wednesday evening when Evelyn opened her apartment door to find Damien, her ex-partner, standing there with a smug expression that instantly sent chills down her spine. "What are you doing here?" Evelyn's voice was firm, but Nathaniel, seated on the couch reading to the twins, noticed the tremble in her hand as she clutched the door. Damien leaned casually against the doorframe. His well-worn leather jacket and stubble hinted at a rougher life, but his sharp eyes betrayed a cunning that Nathaniel didn't trust. "I've got a right to see my kids," Damien said with an edge of defiance, his gaze shifting to the children inside. Evelyn stepped out into the hallway, closing the door slightly behind her. "You lost that right when you walked out on us years ago," she hissed, her voice low but fierce. "You don't get to just show up and disrupt our lives." Damien's smirk widened. "You think you can just shut me out? I've got legal rights, Evelyn. You can't keep me from my kids." Inside, Nathaniel strained to hear the conversation, his instincts on high alert. He knew better than to interfere without Evelyn's cue, but his gut told him this man meant trouble. The twins had fallen asleep during the story, and he gently tucked the blanket around them, his mind racing with possibilities. When Evelyn finally returned, her face was pale but resolute. Nathaniel stood, his eyes full of concern. "Who was that?" he asked gently. "Damien," she said, her voice tight. "Their father." Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "What does he want?" "To cause trouble," she replied, sitting heavily on the couch. "He's never cared about the kids before. But now, suddenly, he's talking about legal rights." Nathaniel sat beside her, his hand resting lightly on hers. "Do you think he'll follow through?" Evelyn shook her head, though doubt clouded her eyes. "I don't know. He's unpredictable. He only shows up when he thinks there's something to gain." Nathaniel's mind immediately shifted into problem-solving mode. "We need to be ready," he said. "If he tries to push this legally, we need a plan." Evelyn sighed, her exhaustion evident. "Nathaniel, this isn't your fight. I've handled Damien before. I can handle him again." "This isn't just your fight anymore," Nathaniel replied, his voice steady but firm. "I care about you. I care about the kids. And I'm not going to let him hurt any of you." Evelyn looked at him, her eyes glistening with unspoken gratitude. But the fear lingered, and both of them knew that Damien's reappearance was only the beginning. True to Evelyn's fears, Damien didn't disappear. A week later, a letter arrived, a formal notice from Damien's lawyer, stating his intention to pursue joint custody of the children. Evelyn's hands trembled as she read it, her mind flashing back to the chaos and instability Damien had brought into their lives before she finally left him. She couldn't bear the thought of her children being dragged into his toxic world. When Nathaniel arrived later that day, Evelyn showed him the letter, her voice trembling with frustration and fear. "He doesn't care about them," she said. "He's doing this to get back at me." Nathaniel read the letter carefully, his face hardening with resolve. "Then we'll fight him," he said simply, "and we'll win." Evelyn shook her head. "I don't have the resources for a legal battle, Nathaniel. He'll twist everything to make me look like the bad guy." "You won't have to do it alone," Nathaniel said, his voice calm but determined. "I'll cover the legal fees, and we'll gather everything we need to show the court who he really is." Evelyn hesitated, her pride and independence warring with her fear for her children. "Why are you doing this?" she asked softly. "You've already done so much for us. Why take on this fight?" Nathaniel met her gaze, his eyes filled with sincerity. "Because you and the kids mean something to me," he said. "I'm not going to stand by and let him take that away." With Nathaniel's support, Evelyn began to prepare for the legal battle ahead. They worked tirelessly, gathering evidence of Damien's neglect and erratic behavior. Neighbors and teachers provided testimonials, while Nathaniel's legal team delved into Damien's past, uncovering a history of unpaid child support and run-ins with the law. The weeks leading up to the court date were a whirlwind of preparation and emotional strain. Nathaniel's presence became a source of strength for Evelyn, who began to see him not just as an ally but as someone she could truly rely on. The children, sensing the tension, clung to both of them more than ever, their laughter and innocence serving as a poignant reminder of what they were fighting for. When the court date finally arrived, Evelyn was a bundle of nerves. Nathaniel accompanied her, his steady presence a calming force. As they entered the courtroom, Damien shot them a smug glance, but Nathaniel ignored it, focusing instead on the task at hand. Evelyn took the stand, her voice steady despite the weight of her emotions. She spoke of her sacrifices, her love for her children, and her determination to provide them with a stable, loving home. Nathaniel watched with pride, his heart swelling as he saw her strength on full display. The turning point came when Damien took the stand. His arrogance quickly unraveled under cross-examination, revealing his lack of involvement in the children's lives and his questionable motives for seeking custody. By the end of the hearing, it was clear who had the children's best interests at heart. When the judge delivered the ruling, granting Evelyn full custody and limiting Damien to supervised visitation, relief washed over her like a tidal wave. She turned to Nathaniel, tears streaming down her face, and whispered, "Thank you for everything." Nathaniel smiled, his own emotions threatening to overwhelm him. "You did this," he said. "I just stood by you." As they left the courtroom, hand in hand, Evelyn realized that Nathaniel wasn't just someone who had stepped into their lives. He was someone who belonged there. For the first time in years, she felt a glimmer of hope that her family's future could be brighter than she had ever imagined. In the weeks following the court ruling, a sense of calm began to settle over Evelyn and her children. For the first time in years, they were free from the shadow of Damien's disruptions. Yet, even with the victory behind them, the emotional scars lingered, especially for Evelyn. The fight had taken its toll, reopening old wounds and stirring feelings of vulnerability she had long buried. Nathaniel, sensing her struggle, made it his mission to bring joy back into their lives. One evening, as they sat together after dinner, he proposed a day trip to a nearby nature reserve. "The kids could use some fresh air," he said, "and I think you could too." Evelyn hesitated, her natural inclination to focus on the children's needs first. But the thought of a day away, surrounded by nature, was tempting. "All right," she agreed, a small smile breaking through her exhaustion. "Let's do it." That Saturday, they packed a picnic and drove out to the reserve. The children were thrilled, their excitement bubbling over as they explored the hiking trails and marveled at the towering trees. Nathaniel carried Mia on his shoulders for most of the hike, her delighted giggles echoing through the forest. Meanwhile, Evelyn watched from a short distance, her heart softening as she saw how naturally Nathaniel fit into their lives. As they reached a scenic overlook, Nathaniel spread out the picnic blanket, and they all sat down to enjoy the food they'd brought. The moment was simple, yet it carried a profound sense of connection, a feeling of family that Evelyn hadn't dared to hope for. Later, as the children played nearby, Nathaniel turned to Evelyn. "You've built something incredible here," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "Your strength, your love. It's what holds everything together." Evelyn looked at him, her defenses lowering. "I've had to be strong," she admitted, "but it's exhausting. For so long, I didn't think I could rely on anyone else." "You don't have to do it alone anymore," Nathaniel said softly. "I'm here, Evelyn, and I'm not going anywhere." For the first time, Evelyn let herself believe him. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by the laughter of her children and the warmth of Nathaniel's presence, she felt the stirrings of hope for a future she had never imagined. In the months that followed, Nathaniel became a steady and irreplaceable part of their lives. He didn't just show up for the big moments. He was there for the small, everyday ones, the science projects, the bedtime stories, the scraped knees. For the children, he wasn't just a visitor anymore. He was family. And for Evelyn, his presence began to feel like a lifeline, a source of strength she hadn't realized she needed. One crisp autumn evening, Nathaniel invited Evelyn and the children to his newly renovated home. The once cold and modern mansion had been transformed into a warm, inviting space, thanks to his newfound appreciation for what truly mattered. He had even created a playroom for the kids, complete with bookshelves, toys, and a small art corner that instantly became Mia and Emma's favorite spot. After dinner, Nathaniel suggested they all go out to the garden, where he had set up a small fire pit. The children roasted marshmallows while Nathaniel and Evelyn sat nearby, the glow of the fire illuminating their faces. As the stars began to dot the night sky, Nathaniel stood and addressed the children. "I have something important to say," he began, his tone gentle but serious. The children looked up at him, their eyes wide with curiosity. Evelyn, sensing something significant, sat straighter, her heart beginning to race. "I've spent the past few months getting to know all of you," Nathaniel continued, "and I can honestly say, these have been the best months of my life. You've given me something I didn't even know I was missing, a family." He turned to Evelyn, his eyes filled with emotion. "Evelyn, you've shown me what it means to truly love and care for others. You've changed my life in ways I can't even begin to explain, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you and the kids, building a future together." Reaching into his pocket, Nathaniel pulled out a small velvet box and opened it to reveal a delicate but stunning ring. "Evelyn Carter, will you marry me?" Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. The children erupted in cheers, their excitement palpable as they began chanting, "Say yes, say yes." Tears filled Evelyn's eyes as she looked at Nathaniel, her heart overflowing with emotion. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling. "1,000 times, yes." The children rushed to hug them both, their laughter and joy filling the night air. As they stood there, huddled together under the starlit sky, Evelyn realized she had found something she had long thought impossible: a partner, a family, and a future filled with love and hope. That night, as they all sat together by the fire, the sense of unity was undeniable. For the first time in years, Evelyn felt a profound sense of peace, knowing that she and her children were no longer alone. And for Nathaniel, it was the beginning of a life he had never dared to dream of, one filled with the kind of love and purpose that could never be measured in dollars or success. The months leading up to Nathaniel and Evelyn's wedding were filled with a mixture of joy, anticipation, and bustling activity. The children took their roles in the wedding very seriously. Sophia insisted on helping plan the decorations, Lucas appointed himself the ring security, and Mia and Emma practiced tossing flower petals with the precision of a military operation. Nathaniel, who had always approached life with meticulous planning, found himself swept up in a whirlwind of emotions he hadn't expected. Every detail of the wedding felt like a step closer to the family he had always wanted but never knew he needed. Evelyn, initially hesitant about a large celebration, found herself smiling more with each passing day as Nathaniel gently persuaded her to embrace the occasion. "This isn't just a wedding," he told her one evening as they sat on the porch, watching the children play in the yard. "It's a celebration of everything we've built together. A family." The ceremony was held on a crisp spring afternoon in the gardens of Nathaniel's estate, now transformed into a space that radiated warmth and welcome. Twinkling lights hung from the trees, and the air was filled with the soft scent of blooming flowers. The guest list was small but meaningful: close friends, family, and the neighbors who had supported Evelyn through her toughest years. When the ceremony began, Evelyn walked down the aisle hand in hand with her children. She wore a simple but elegant dress, and her face glowed with a happiness that brought tears to many eyes. Nathaniel stood at the altar, his heart pounding as he watched them approach, the weight of the moment nearly overwhelming him. As they exchanged vows, their words were filled with sincerity and emotion. Nathaniel promised to love and protect not just Evelyn, but also the children who had become his world. Evelyn, in turn, spoke of her gratitude for finding love and partnership when she least expected it. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the children joined them at the altar, wrapping their arms around Nathaniel and Evelyn in a group hug that drew applause and laughter from the guests. It wasn't just a wedding. It was the formation of a family bound by love and commitment. The reception that followed was filled with laughter and joy. The children took to the dance floor with Nathaniel, showing off their best moves while Evelyn watched with a smile that never left her face. As the evening drew to a close, Nathaniel and Evelyn shared a quiet moment together, watching the children chase fireflies in the fading light. "I never thought I'd have this," Evelyn said softly, her head resting on Nathaniel's shoulder. "A real family." Nathaniel kissed her temple, his heart full. "Neither did I," he said. "But now that I do, I'll never let it go." With the wedding behind them, Nathaniel and Evelyn settled into their new life together. The once solitary routines of Nathaniel's days were now replaced with the joyful chaos of family life: school drop-offs, soccer games, bedtime stories, and impromptu dance parties in the living room. The house, once a symbol of Nathaniel's wealth and isolation, now brimmed with laughter, warmth, and life. But Nathaniel's transformation wasn't limited to his personal life. Inspired by Evelyn's resilience and the community that had supported her during her struggles, he decided to channel his resources into creating something meaningful. Over dinner one evening, he shared his idea with Evelyn and the children. "I've been thinking about starting a foundation," he said, his tone thoughtful. "Something to support single parents who are going through what you went through, Evelyn. To give them resources, childcare, job training, whatever they need to build a better life." Evelyn's eyes filled with emotion as she listened. "Nathaniel, that's incredible," she said. "But are you sure you want to take on something so big?" Nathaniel smiled. "I've never been more sure of anything. You showed me what true strength looks like, and I want to give others the same chance to find it." The foundation, named Brighter Futures, quickly became a family effort. Evelyn played an integral role, sharing her story and offering insights to ensure the programs addressed real needs. Sophia, ever the budding writer, helped draft the foundation's mission statement. Lucas volunteered at community events, and Mia and Emma charmed everyone they met, becoming unofficial mascots for the cause. The foundation's impact was immediate and profound. It provided single parents with access to childcare, financial counseling, and career training, empowering them to create stable and fulfilling lives for their families. Nathaniel and Evelyn often visited the centers together, connecting with the parents and children whose lives were being transformed. One evening, as they returned home from a foundation event, Nathaniel looked around the dinner table at the family he had built with Evelyn. Sophia was sharing her latest story idea, Lucas was excitedly recounting his soccer game, and Mia and Emma were giggling over an inside joke. Evelyn caught Nathaniel's eye and smiled, a silent acknowledgement of how far they had come. "This is what matters," Nathaniel thought, his heart swelling with gratitude. Not the accolades, not the success, but the love and connection he had found with Evelyn and the children. And in that moment, he knew that their story was just beginning. A story of love, resilience, and the enduring power of family. As the years passed, the family continued to grow stronger, united by love and shared experiences. Nathaniel, once a solitary figure consumed by work and ambition, had transformed into a devoted husband and father. The children flourished under the stability and support of their blended family, each carving out a path that reflected their unique talents and personalities. Sophia, with her sharp intellect and love for storytelling, began writing for the local school newspaper, earning recognition for her insightful articles. Lucas, ever curious and full of energy, excelled in science and dreamed of building rockets one day. Mia and Emma, inseparable as always, discovered a shared passion for art and often turned the kitchen table into their personal studio. Evelyn watched it all with quiet pride, marveling at how far they had come. Her days, once filled with worry and exhaustion, were now marked by laughter and the comforting rhythm of family life. And Nathaniel, her steadfast partner, was at the heart of it all, showing up for every soccer game, parent-teacher meeting, and late-night science project with unwavering enthusiasm. One evening, as they sat around the dinner table, Sophia asked a question that took Evelyn by surprise. "Do you ever think about how we all ended up together?" she asked, her tone curious. "It's kind of crazy, isn't it?" Evelyn exchanged a glance with Nathaniel, a smile tugging at her lips. "It is," she admitted. "But sometimes, the best things in life come from the most unexpected places." Nathaniel nodded, his gaze resting on each of the children in turn. "I think we're exactly where we're meant to be," he said, his voice filled with emotion. The children nodded, content with the simple truth of his words. And in that moment, Surrounded by the warmth and love of their family, Evelyn realized that their journey, though challenging, had been worth every step. As the family continued to thrive, Nathaniel and Evelyn's work with the Brighter Futures Foundation became a cornerstone of their lives. What began as a small initiative to support single parents had grown into a national movement, touching the lives of countless families. The foundation provided scholarships, mentorship programs, and access to critical resources, creating opportunities for those who needed them most. Evelyn became a sought-after speaker, sharing her story at events and inspiring others with her journey of resilience and hope. Nathaniel, ever the visionary, used his business acumen to expand the foundation's reach, partnering with organizations across the country to maximize their impact. But for Nathaniel and Evelyn, the foundation's greatest success wasn't measured in numbers or accolades. It was in the moments they witnessed, like a mother finding stable housing for her children or a father landing a job that allowed him to provide for his family. Each story reminded them of why they had started this journey and reinforced their commitment to making a difference. One summer evening, the family gathered in the backyard for a barbecue. The children had invited friends from the neighborhood, and the air was filled with the sounds of laughter and music. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the scene, Nathaniel and Evelyn sat together on the porch, watching the joyful chaos unfold. "This is it," Nathaniel said quietly, his hand resting on Evelyn's. "This is what it's all about." Evelyn nodded, her heart full. "It's more than I ever dreamed of," she said. "And it's all because of you." "No," Nathaniel replied, his gaze steady. "It's because of us. Because we chose to fight for this, together." As the stars began to fill the sky, the family gathered around a fire pit, sharing stories and dreams for the future. It was a moment of perfect harmony, a reflection of the love and resilience that had carried them through every challenge. For Nathaniel and Evelyn, their journey wasn't just a story of redemption. It was a legacy of love and hope that would inspire future generations. They had built something extraordinary, not through wealth or ambition, but through the simple, powerful act of choosing to stand by each other, no matter what. And in that choice, they found the true meaning of family, a bond that would endure long after the last embers of the fire had faded, lighting the way for all those who followed.